either vibrate or silent, so it doesn't disturb the meeting. Thank you.
Good point. Okay, I think the on-the-air line is on, so we'll welcome everybody here this morning. This is a special meeting, open meeting of the third Laguna Hills Mutual, and the subject this morning is our third iteration of the proposed 2024 budget. We have a quorum this morning, so we will proceed with the meeting as it is shown here. And again, I will say that we will have an open discussion early about items that are not on the agenda. And if you're speaking on the budget, please wait until after the budget has been presented by staff. So we will call the meeting to order officially. And I've already stated the purpose of the meeting. And we will proceed with, any other remarks. I think I just made them. So there's nothing else that I really want to say at this point. I'm glad to see so many people here, so many people interested in what's going on in the community. That's really good, great. So we appreciate your being here. Other than that, I have no remarks, so we will proceed with the, let's see, we have to approve the agenda first. May I have an approval of the agenda? Okay. And any objection? Okay. Chair remarks have already been through. I've discussed the forum. By the way, I've often wondered why they have this paragraph in here that tells you how to get on if you're already on the Zoom meeting. So the easy way to get on it from your computer anytime that any of you want to stay home and get on is to go to the website and then just follow through meetings and Third Mutual and follow the directions as you go through that. There's also a phone number. People who are listening online and want to either call in may do so, requesting to speak either by telephone or by Zoom. And the meeting, have to go by email, I guess, to meeting@vms.org in order to request to speak, or call a phone number 669-900-6833. Okay, we will proceed. Do we have any open forum comments this time from members?
Do we have any open forum for not on the agenda?
Anybody wishing to speak not on the budget?
No.
Nobody here. Okay, we will move on. And we don't have to respond to those then. So we will turn it over to, I guess Jose is going to present the budget at this point. I would remind you, this is the third iteration of this budget. It starts out, the first iteration is sort of a wish list by staff and everybody. Then it goes through a second iteration, and now this is the third. This is not final yet, so you will have opportunity to make inputs as soon as Jose is done. Mr. Campos.
Thank you for the opportunity to go over the budget today. We do have some agendas being passed out. Some copies of the slides that we're going to be are being passed out here, as we made a couple of extra copies here. But here on this next slide here, if I can begin, just as Chair Engdahl was talking about, here is a calendar of all of the meetings that we've had so far. As a community, we've had a grand total of about 20 budget meetings. And this is a process that begins very early. So we began this process back in March, and in March is when we got together and we shared what's inside the current budget. So the idea was to give everyone a full understanding of what service levels were being provided. The idea was to make sure that we have that base and that foundation. And again, we start back in March, then we do a series of internal reviews. Siobhan will talk to us about exactly what went on during those in just a minute, but wanted to give you an idea. That once we gathered everything together, we came before the boards and you and went program by program inside of our maintenance and construction departments, as well as landscape. So you knew what was in there, and as as Ralph was alluding to, this is a very iterative process. We went back and forth a lot on them. Even this version has some changes from the previous version, so we'll talk about some of those today. In version 2 is the first time we came before you and presented you with a total per manor per month cost, and today is the third iteration of this budget, and that is by name only. I can assure you there's been countless iterations. We've been going back and forth with the boards and in different finance meetings and in all meetings really talking about the budget. So this is something that's been going on for a while. But ultimately our goal is to be able to present something to the boards in September, and at that September meeting we'll be asking for you to adopt the 2024 budget. And this is all in anticipation of us being able to getting out your assessment disclosures and those kinds of things that are required to be given to you by November. So a long process, but it's something that we take seriously because we know that budgeting is very important as it has a direct correlation to how much you're being assessed. So that is kind of the game plan for us today. But as we are going through and taking a look at the budgets, there are a couple of items that we really don't have a lot of influence over. There's a lot of external forces that are affecting your budget. So for example, inflation. As we know, inflation's been all over the news. That's something that's been very difficult for everyone, not only our village, but inflation has been running rampant, and the budget has not yet caught up with that. So the inflation factor is going to be very prevalent, as you'll see in the budgets as we go through them. Also, utilities. Utilities are something, the rates for utilities have continued to increase, especially as we've been moving towards water conservation, and as we've been doing a couple of things with electricity. SCE and El Toro Water District have been continuing to pass along those increases at a pretty profound rate. So we'll be talking about each of those individually, but I wanted to make you aware that the utility rates are pretty significant, as well as trash, which we'll be talking about in a minute. Property insurance, this is a huge factor for third, as your statement of values has been reassessed. The insurance industry as a whole has been devastated, really, and they're reflecting that in their premiums as they're going forth. So again, we'll talk about all of these things, and not the least of which is the union and non-union wage adjustments. As I'm sure seen, as you've gone out into the different communities, hiring is difficult, and everyone is doing what they can in order to attract and retain talent, and we're no different, and in order for us to be able to compete, we've had to make some union and non-union wage adjustments for the coming year. So those are some of the factors that are influencing our budgets, but those are the things that we can't control. However, there are several things that we can control, and to talk a little bit about that, we do have our CEO, Siobhan Foster, here to talk about that.
Thank you, Jose. Honorable Vice President, members of the board, the budget development process is a comprehensive, iterative process. We started in January with the VMS strategic plan update. This is when the VMS board and representatives from 3rd, United, and GRF met and affirmed 3-year goals. Those goals include maintaining financial stability and longevity of the village, working in cooperation with the boards, and facilitating operational excellence and sustainability. The participants in the strategic plan then set 6-month strategic objectives. Those included evaluating departments' vacant positions and identifying reductions in full-time employees to be included in the 2024 proposed budgets, and completing a top-down review of staffing levels to streamline operations and reflect those results in the proposed 2024 budgets. Between February and April, department heads reviewed actual and budgeted staffing levels for the period of 2018 to 2022 with executive management and determined vacant positions that could be eliminated and reasonable 2024 staffing levels based on efficiencies and process adjustments and inherent turnover in the current job market. Then in April, department directors inputted their line item budgets. In May, executive management reviewed. Subsequently, executive management conducted departmental budget reviews. And in June, the initial version of the budget was published as a starting point. In these steps, the executive team reduced the proposed budget by more than $6 million. In July, version 2 of the budget and capital plan were presented to the boards. On screen is the 5-year funded staffing trend. You will see funding for 695.75 positions is included in the proposed budget. This is a reduction of more than 15 positions from the current year. We feel this is a reasonable staffing level based on the efficiencies and process adjustments that have been implemented by our departments and the inherent turnover in the current job market. So we took that very strategic look at our staffing levels, and that's where we started the proposed budget. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Jose.
Thank you. So what does that mean for us? On this next slide here, you'll be able to see this is your third basic assessment history. So you see the last 5 years on here. We are proposing for 2024 a total increase of $27.98, which represents a a 5% increase when compared to the current year. That is a third portion of the assessment, but of course you're also members of GRF. So when we consider both GRF and third together, you're looking at a $35.38 increase, or 4.5% compared to the 2023 plan. So what we're going to do is we're going to be going through each of those line items and letting you know what's involved in each of those line items. This is the general roadmap for what we'll be talking about today. So we'll be keep coming back to this. We'll call this our business plan here. So you'll see that we're going to be talking about the first two lines there, revenue and expense. These are both operating. So net operating, you're going to see a total decrease of $14.13. And again, we'll be talking about each of those individual line items that make up these, but just wanted to give you a general roadmap. As far as operating is concerned, we're looking at a decrease of $14. We'll talk about some of the reasons why. You're looking at also at reserve contributions of $21.37, and this is based on a contracted reserve study that we've conducted. So again, we'll share those details with you in just a few minutes. We're looking at an increase in the restricted contributions, and these are going to be your disaster and contingency funds. And this is a savings account, if you will, money that a third has ready to go should any emergencies arise. And that's what leads to the total assessment increase of $27.98. On Monday, we were able to show GRF their third iteration of their budget, and their increase is looking like a $7.40 increase. 5 of that has to do with the amount of operating surplus that's available. In previous years, they had more operating surplus available. There is surplus available, but not as much as there was before. So that led to a $5 increase. Grand total, again, is going to be $35.38. Additionally, third has a couple of units that have surcharges. I'm talking specifically about elevator and garden villa rec room. And so you'll see that those with an elevator, their monthly assessment's actually going to decrease slightly by 69 cents, and that's due to less emergency repair needed on elevators. We're trending downward in that area, so happy to see a reduction there. And the folks with the garden villa, that's going to increase by 25 cents, and that is based off of the Garden Villa Ad Hoc Committee. I don't remember the name of it, but basically the committee that governs Garden Villa has let us know that they have plans going forward. Sorry, just making sure that we have audio. We'll take care of that. Moving on. So let's get into the specifics of this. One more slide, please. Let's go into the specifics. We'll be talking about net operating first. We'll be beginning again with revenue. I want to show you a pie chart as far as what's included in this revenue, and this orange section here, we call it fees and charges for services. This specifically has to do with chargeable services, and as you can see, almost the entirety of your revenue, 78% of it, is governed by this chargeable services. So we'll go through each of these, but I wanted to give you some scope as far as what's in here. So let's take a look at each of those individually here on the next slide. So again, fees and charges to residents. This is going to be your chargeable services. This area is set to increase by $2,440,000. And what's going on here is that third has a backlog of damage restoration cases. So this is damage restoration, damage that has happened, floods and those kinds of things that may have been attributable or to a member or member caused or an alteration or something like that. And these in the past have already been paid by the mutual, and now in order for the mutual to collect, they have to have a determination hearing, make sure that who's responsible for it. And once we make that determination and share it back with the resident, then the resident can submit it to their insurance and do those kinds of things. But to be able to collect on this, we need to have those determination hearings. Well, there is a backlog of those. Staff anticipates that there's about $3 million worth of a backlog on these. So we have put plans in place. Your board has recently approved funding in order for us to be able to throw more resources at this, to be able to find those determination hearings. And once this is funded, we anticipate collecting a total of $3 million. We anticipate 75% of that, or $2,250,000, to be collected in 2024, and that's why we're showing it here on your slide. So this is a wonderful windfall, but it is a one-time windfall. Once we're caught up, there will be no other for us to go back to. So due to that, we're happy to put it in, but just know that next year that won't be available to us, and it's going to therefore feel like a bigger increase. So just wanted to make you aware of that. Additionally, laundry, and then this is going to be your coin collection for your laundry. Laundry is set to increase by about $1,000 there compared to previous budgets. Decrease by about $1,000. And this is just a 3-year average that we're looking at. And I'm sorry I didn't go over my columns here. I just want to let you know that for all these future slides, we're taking a look. We're showing you 3 years worth of actuals, 2020, 21, and 22. We're showing you last year's plan and then the proposed 2024 plan. And then over on the right-hand side, we're showing you what this means to your assessment. So the negative numbers on the rightmost side will mean that your assessment decreases, and positive numbers means that your assessment increases. So just wanted to throw that out there, and everything here is in thousands. So going back to miscellaneous, in miscellaneous revenue, there is no change, but obviously it's a big figure, so I wanted to let you know what's in there. Lease processing, resale processing, and additional occupancy revenue are all in there. So you'll see that $750,000 there. Moving on to expenditures. So here is a pie chart, again, that shows your expenditures. Again, you have 3 major areas that contribute to your expenditures here: employee compensation and related, insurance, and utilities. These 3 make up 86% of all expenditures, 1/3. So I wanted to go ahead and put them up on your screen. Again, we'll talk about some of these ad nauseum, but wanted to give you. We're going to be holding questions to the end of the presentation, just to move things along, and hopefully I'll get around to answering those questions, possibly in the presentation. But wanted to show you here. Employee compensation. Employee compensation is going up by $250,000, or 3.1%, and this is primarily due to those planned wage adjustments, which I talked about at the beginning, and also it's partially offset by the decreased positions that Siobhan talked about at the beginning. I will put a note in here and let you know that in third, Garden Villa janitorial was reduced to every other week, and that saved about $198,000 here in this area. And also that there were 2 landscape floaters that were added to make sure your landscape is better, and that cost about $150,000. Also included in this area is some increased temporary help, and this is going to be for addressing the backlog of those damage restoration areas. So that's what's in there. As far as the expenses to related, this area decreased by $51,000, and that's primarily due to switching medical insurance providers. So one of the things that your staff is doing, obviously looking in all areas for a reduction to your assessments, is we're switching insurance providers. And what that's going to do is we were able to find an insurance provider that came in at a lot less money, whereas our existing insurance provider was proposing an increase. This one actually led to even. So that was nice for us to be able to bring that in. And of course, staff is always looking to do whatever it can in order to decrease assessment. So that's what went on there. Sorry about the feedback here. Do we have any other microphones on? Sorry. That's what it is. I don't know. Here we go. Sorry. Materials and supplies has increased by $100,000, and this is primarily due to inflation. I think a lot of you were in the meeting when Kurt was talking about all the different irrigation materials, but basically anything that's petroleum-based has really had double-digit increases. So just in general, all up and down all of our departments, we've seen an increase in materials and supplies. So that's catching up there. You see the 2022 actuals were $833,000. We believe that we can rein it in a little bit for 2024 at $827,000, which still represents a $100,000 increase year over year. As far as utilities are concerned, again, for all of our utilities, what we've done is we've gone into our records and seeing what kind of usage we have, so how many kilowatt hours, how many gallons of water, how much frequency our trash is being picked up, and we looked at the rates. We've also taken a look at the California Public Utilities Commission to see what they have to say or what their projections are. And these are what we've come up with. So, for example, electricity has increased by $55,000 based on the current consumption and projected rate increases. And Southern California Edison has just published their rates for next year, and they are anticipating an increase of 7%. So that's what you're looking at there. Sewer has increased by $165,000, again, based on what is currently being used. El Toro Water District, at their August 1st meeting, has published rates as well. And they have two portions to their bills. One is the variable portion or the cost per water, and then their fixed portion. And their fixed portion that they're passing on is pretty extensive, increasing 18% for the operations and maintenance fees. So again, you see a significant increase here in sewer of $165,000. Similarly in water, that increase is $210,000. I will say that their original increase is actually much more than this, but as you know, GRF has put together a master irrigation control project, and that's projected to save the entire community $280,000, and Third's piece of that is $142,000. So happy to see the decrease there, but never happy to see an increase, but again, it just has to do with the rates. And trash is another very important portion. And what happened for trash is right now we're currently under a franchise agreement. That means that the contract is between the trash provider and the city, and we don't really get a choice as far as what provider we can use. They've come in, and the deal that we had with the previous provider was very low in comparison. As they went out to bid, they weren't able to find anyone nearly at that price. So the provider that we do have has, instead of hitting us with a full sticker shock of what the rates actually were, they made a multi-year deal. And in that deal for 2024, Third was projected to increase 41% and up to a 5% CPI factor on top of that. The result is gruesome, as you can see on your screen here, $370,000. Again, we don't have a lot of choice as far as what provider we use. One more. Can you turn it down a little, maybe? Thank you. On the next slide here, on slide 19, you see legal fees. Legal fees are projected to decrease by $93,000, and that is more in line with some of the recent trends. So we see a decrease there, so that is a good thing. Professional fees have increased by $19,000 due to adding $25,000 for external assessment of Garden Villa garage water seepage. So that was one of the items that was added during the last version of the budget. Some of the Garden Villa garages have some water seepage going into them. So our intention here is to get in some external help to see what's causing that. Equipment rental has increased by $1,000. This is just the rate a little bit of a rate increase compared to the prior year. Outside services have increased by $46,000, and this is due to the increased gutter cleaning expense. So the addition of a gutter cover pilot program into the gutter cleaning program has helped. So what we're experiencing is, as we're replacing those gutters, we're going to try a pilot program where they're going to put a cover over them to try to keep the debris out of that, to make the gutters a little bit more efficient. So that'll be a good thing there. Minor changes for repair and maintenance for a total of $5,000 there. That has to do to a reduction in the expenditure associated with elevators. We're experiencing less emergency calls, so that is a good thing. Other operating expenses remained unchanged, relatively unchanged. The major items in there are uniforms and postage. Insurance has increased by $95,000 due to increased hazard and liability insurance. This is one of those that gets renewed once a year in October. And again, the insurance is a very tough industry right now, and they're passing along those increased premiums. But the headliner, of course, is property insurance. Property insurance is increasing by $150,000. This is an item that we renew once a year in June. So although we're on budget now, we do anticipate that there will be an increase the following June at our June 2024 renewal. So that's the contingency that's added for that. Last two here for under expenditures are uncollectible accounts has increased by $20,000 due to an upward trend in long-term unpaid assessments. I will stop to note that we talked about the money that we're anticipating collecting for the damage restoration. As more and more becomes collectible, there is obviously a chance that more becomes uncollectible as well, just because of the nature of the amounts. However, we feel that there will still be a net gain of about $2,250,000 in 2024. So just wanted to note that. And lastly here is your cost allocations. This figure has increased $74,000 due to more allocated from GRF. So as GRF incurs more expense, they're sending some over your way at a little bit of a higher rate. So this is the end of the operating portion here. So again, everything that we've talked about to this point leads to an assessment decrease of $14. So now moving on to reserves. Reserves, again, are projected to increase $21.34. And just to remind you, you have three funds that we consider reserve funds. We have a replacement fund, an elevator fund, and a laundry fund. And we'll walk you through each of those. But first, letting you know that do we have our Zoom participants? Go ahead. Sorry, just pausing here for a second. They're having problems hearing us on Zoom. However, on TV, we're okay? On TV and Granicus, we're okay. So we'll try to get on Zoom. So forgive us if you see a couple of things shining here on the screen. But meanwhile, we'll try to keep the presentation moving along if we could. Let's go to the next slide, please. So again, for our reserves, we employ the use of a contracted reserve specialist, and this is a company that specializes in homeowners associations, going and taking a look at your long-term assets, making sure that A, that they're maintained, and B, that there's a plan to maintain them. So the regulation is that we have a plan in place whereby we have pardon us.
Welcome to Zoom. Enter your meeting ID followed by pound.
As long as we don't hear the dreaded goodbye, we'll be okay.
Enter your participant ID followed by pound. Other You have entered the meeting as a panelist. Attendees can now hear you speak.
Well, let's test that theory. Can Zoom hear us speak? I'm sure that they will let us know. But for those of you joining us on Zoom, welcome. Again, talking about the reserve study. So we have hired a reserve specialist to come on board and to come on site to take a look at your assets. They come at least once every 3 years, and then they use specific software in order to do some projections. That being said, they've gone through and taken a look at everything and have projected that we're currently stand at 34.6% funding. And what that means is that we have that much money ready to go in the case of anything going. And I would ask, is that good? Is that bad? What it is? So down on the bottom, here's a little industry chart that is often used. And we say that anyone who is less than 30% funding stands in high risk of a special assessment. Between 30 and 70 is medium risk. Over 70 is low risk. However, this is the same scale that's used for communities with 4 units or 6,000 units like yourself, and it really skews heavily towards smaller. So we're quite happy with 34%. That means that we do have $25 million ready and available for you in your reserves. Nevertheless, obviously, the better off, the higher, the better we are, but wanted to provide that for you. So that was on year 1, and this micro printing here that you see on your screen, it shows us over the next 30 years, and what I'd like to focus on is that column in the middle. And that is the yellow. So between 30 and 70, you're projected to be in those areas for the next, 20 years or so, and then ultimately jump into the green should we follow this funding plan. So I think that third is in a very well situated spot here to give you an idea. But let's take a look at some numbers that may be a little bit more familiar. So here on your screen, you can see ever since VMS took over in 2017, your assessments, how much the monthly assessment has been for the replacement fund, some investment gains, as you can imagine. We take your money and invest it here for you. The expenditures that were done, and then your ending balance. So you can see that historically you've been building and accumulating that reserve fund in case of rainy day. And again, together between staff and your reserve specialist recommendation, we determined that a contribution of $175.37 would be appropriate. And just to give you an idea of what that means, again, in that bold line, that means we're collecting a total of $12.8 million. We do believe that we're going to gain about $550,000 in investments. However, we do have planned expenditures of over $14 million. So despite that big increase in assessment, you'll see at the end there, your projected balance is anticipated to dip a little bit. That's okay, because again, this is part of a 30-year plan, but wanted to make you aware that even at this rate, it should dip a little bit based on some of those expenditures. Similarly, over in elevators, this has been an area that for the most part has been a $5 per man per month contribution. We are collecting a total of $366,000. We're only planning to expend $125,000. But elevators are one of those lumpy type expenditures, meaning once an actual cab for an elevator goes down, then you're looking at several $100,000. So we do have some contingencies in here for buttons and different things that need to be replaced. But again, we need to keep those reserves relatively high should the entire device need to be replaced. So again, that's what you see there for a $5 contribution. And lastly is going to be this lastly for reserves, I should say, is going to be this laundry replacement contribution, and that is $2 per man per month. Again, we're collecting a total of about $146,000 there in bold, planning to expend $168,000, so you'll see a slight dip in the ending balance. We think that that's going to be okay for the next several years at $2. Maybe in a few years that may go up by $1, but just give you again a projection on that. And just so you know, I wanted to share, each of these programs have been discussed in detail. However, there were a couple of changes from the last time we met until today. So I wanted to list them here on your screen. The Garden Villa Rec Room, this is the Garden Villa Rec Room window replacement of $60,000. For version 2, we inadvertently put that in operating. In version 3, we're correcting that and moving it over to reserves. So you saw a decrease in operating and an increase in reserves of $60,000. For exterior walls, this is where we're putting the Shepherd's Crook that needs to be funded for $54,000 to allow for the completion of all of the remaining 450 feet along Santa Maria. So version 2 had 300 feet, and there would have only been 150 to go. So we got direction to put it all in there, increase of $54,000. We also have waste line remediation and water line remediation at $500,000 each, and this was based off of a direction that was given by the board. These are areas that the more we invest in, and these are all infrastructure items, of course, the more we invest in, the more leaks that we can hopefully avoid and more problems later. So we took a look and saw that with your existing staffing, we'd be able to manage some more outside consultants. So these are both outside services that come in and do this work. We're anticipating going from $1 million to $1.5 million for waistline, and from $500,000 to $1 million in waterline. Again, using your existing staffing to manage that outside service contract. So just to give you, and I won't go through each of these, but just to give you an idea of other items that are funded from reserves, here are your lists of different programs that are funded from reserves and the increase decrease compared to 2023 and 24. Of significance on this page is building structures, because we're adding $150,000 for parapet wall removal and balcony inspections. On the next page here, you'll see again a list of roofs and paint programs and prior to paint programs that you see on here. Roofs, we're doing more of them, that the square footage is higher. Again, we've had several hours worth of meetings on these items. So I don't mean to be glossing over them. It's just that there were no changes from the last time that we met, with the exception of the 3 that I talked about. Similarly, in general services has to a lot lesser scale than maintenance and construction, but you can see on your screen there paving, exterior walls, and those kinds of items. And lastly, landscape. Landscape does their trees out of reserves. I will say this is a big deal here, this landscape modernization. This landscape modernization now includes a 15-year program, a prior to paint program. And so what we're doing, and this is going to be significant, what we're doing here is that we're going, before any building is painting, we're going to go through and remove all of the vegetation and all of the landscape associated with it. That way the painters can come in and have an easier time of getting in and around. They'll be able to do everything that they do. And then once they leave, we'll go through and re-landscape everything. And that's a slight deviation to what was done before, whereas we were trying to cover everything. It was taking more time. At the end of the day, a lot of the foliage and a lot of the landscape was damaged anyway. That had to come in and be redone. So this is a more efficient way. However, again, this is going to be a fairly substantial program, $1.75 million for 2024 alone. So this is one of the reasons that your reserve needed to increase, is that we added this particular program. Now, the upside to this is that we believe as this program goes on, we're going to gain a lot more efficiencies. We're going to ultimately be able to do buildings faster and ultimately reduce some of the labor associated with that. So we have, again, that's going to be quite a significant change there. Moving on to the last of the third business plan is the restricted contributions, and this again is going to be our contingency funds. In third, we have 2. We have a disaster fund and an unappropriated expenditures fund. So we'll talk about each of those. Again, we'll show you this little chart that shows your history on the next 5-year projection. And for the disaster fund, you can see that the balances on this one, starting in 2017, 18, and 19, were $8 and $9 million. That's where we were. We wanted to make sure to have sufficient funds available should any disaster strike. As we moved forward, you saw that the contribution dropped fairly consistently there, and you saw that ending balances also start to drop. So in 2024, the effort is to go ahead and use, again, some of this one-time money that we talked about from damage restoration to start funding the disaster fund and bring it back up to those 2021 figures. So the recommendation here is a $25 per man per month increase. And again, you see on your screen that what that does to your ending balance, start building it back up to what was done before. Similarly, on the Unappropriated Expenditures Fund, this is a fund that, again, we were funding at $11 in 2017 and 18. It went down to 8 for a few years, and then over the last couple of years, we have stopped contributing to this fund. So this is in an effort to get back to those items. Again, the Unappropriated Expenditures Fund is a contingency fund that's used for significant expenditures not otherwise identified in the business plan. So as we know, mayhem happens, and this is our hedge against that. Some of the items that are budgeted to be paid out of these funds involve moisture intrusion, as you can see here on your screen. A total of about $1 million is what we're projecting on that. And also, on the other side of that is fire risk management, and this is cutting down of the trees along the wilderness area towards the west side of 3rd there. $180,000 for that risk fire management. So we also have Garden Villa Rec Room has a fund, and as I'm sure many of you are aware, it has about $111,000 in it currently. The contribution is projected to be $6.50, thereby covering that. So we want to maintain that $100,000, a little bit over, fund in there. So that is the last of that. Again, GRF, we talked about Monday, they had their meeting, and they came at a $7.40 increase. So that is really all of it as far as your third business plan. Again, the total assessment is $816.31, or an increase of 35 cents. And again, this is what includes your maintenance and construction, your utilities, water, sewer, trash. It includes your reserves, it includes broadband, it includes your transportation. So quite a bit that you get, of course, for living here. So with that, we'll turn it back over to the chair and be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Can you turn on your mic, please? I can't hear you. I'm sorry. Can you turn your mic on?
I'm sorry, the mic is on, but I didn't put my face over it. Okay, do we have any questions on budget? Anybody have questions?
Do you want to take the boards first, or do you want to take audience?
Well, let's do the board. Is there any questions from the board members that are here? SK?
Yeah, I do have question, page 29. The Garden Villa Rec Room, $65 contribution. Is it only for the resident of the Garden Villa?
This is a $65,000 expenditures that is shared for the community. It is not only for Garden Villa, that's for everyone, and this
Okay.
has to do with the windows.
Okay. Who determined that Garden Villa window need to be replaced?
This is a direction that the board took at its last meeting.
Okay. Some windows okay, some windows may need replaced, we don't know. But as far as budget is concerned, that's okay, but as long as we don't spend for nothing, they will be okay. Thank you.
Okay, Moon?
Thank you for the presentation, Jose. Talking about the employee compensation, so when you look at the slide 8, our staffing FTE is went down for quite a bit. And then when you look at the slide 17, And the money expenditure, I think I brought up this one other time, but quite expenditure, employee compensation, and all that went up to quite a bit from look at it. So when you look at the employee number, it went down, but we are spending more money for that. So it must be a couple things. As you said, we cannot hire more people at the current rate. So that's what our number is down. But the expenditure is going up. So they are getting paid a little bit better than before. And then second, if we want to control the, can you hear me okay?
Yes?
So if we want to control the expenditure or compensation or employment, are we using AI or more technology trying to bring or replacing the workload for other people so we can save some money? Or what is our plan for the future? How are we going to control the expenditure of employment or compensation for the manpower?
I'll start, and then I'll turn it over to Jose for more details. But we're obviously always looking at ways to improve processes, make improvements in terms of efficiency, and so forth. The last several months, I've provided updates on some of our progress at your board meetings when I've been presenting. Technology is definitely a mainstay in that. You are aware that we're implementing a new enterprise resource software system that's going to tie together many standalone systems and bring some efficiency to our organization. But I will also ask Jose to go into the details from the budget.
Sure. So a couple of things here. You touched on a lot of things, and I just wanted to address them. So you talked about the chart that Siobhan showed, a total decrease of 16 employees. I will mention that 10 and a half of those are from GRF. So those are going to be GRF-specific employees. I'm talking recreation, those kinds of areas that don't affect a third directly. But the other 5.5 are shared between United and Third. So you did see a decrease. Overall, this line is increasing by 3.1%. So that's less than planned wage adjustments. But I will say also that this particular line has increased temporary help. Again, this is temporary help that the board is approving in order to be able to collect on the damage restoration backlog that we're looking at. So that is about a 2% increase of that. So 2% of that is this one-time item that we have. Additionally, as far as what advances are we making, I talked a little bit about landscape. The landscape prior to paint program is going to be one of those items that's going to pay in the future. As we streamline that process, we believe that you'll be able to get away with less staffing to do things like painting. So Siobhan talked about the ERP system that we're continuing to use, our new software to automate processes that are done manually. So all those things are things that we're doing, and that's why you see that chart of staffing coming down.
If I can add to that just briefly, I would also point out that when you're looking on screen at 2020, 21, and 22, those are all actuals. And what that means is during those years, we had numerous positions that we were unable to fill, and as a result, those expenses are down below in outside services. When you're looking in 2023 and 2024, we're budgeting for all those positions. So if you go back into the details in some of the handouts, you'll see that the expenses fluctuate. So in total, when you add up the compensation plus the outside services, it remains relatively flat from 2020 through 2024, despite what you're seeing on screen.
So Steve, what you're saying is when we look at the expenditure for manpower, we should include the outside service as well.
When you're doing your analysis, correct.
Yeah, okay. And do we have any plan to utilize more resident manpower?
There have been discussions about changing perhaps the VMS bylaws to make that more of a possibility for resident employment. So that is definitely something that we are looking at, and all the boards are involved in that discussion.
Okay, so your number, Jose, your number, slide 4 and 17 is not just for the third mutual, it's all BMA, Laguna Woods,
Community, yes.
all community. So when you break it down to third mutual, there's only very little numbers, huh? Like 5, you said.
5.5 split between United and Third.
So not much change, basically.
For United and Third.
Okay. Another thing I want to discuss, I want to ask a question is, when you look at the reserve, we have 30-some% right now, not very good, but another 30 years, we are planning about 100% reserve, so which is pretty decent. Okay, what I'm saying is, how about buying power? Are we talking about buying power or just a number? So if we got 100%, reserve, but is buying power will be 100% improved at 30%, or just the number goes up? The reason I'm saying is that when you look at the investment, 2.5%, but inflation is 3%. So we are losing 0.5% every year. And then the number of reserve is going up. In 30 years, 1958, we got more than 100% covered. But how about the buying power? Do we have a buying power 100% covered, or just the numbers covered?
We anticipate being 100% fully funded by the end of 30 years, so yes.
Fully funded, my question is, fully funded means number fully funded or buying power went up to 100%.
So we're including a factor of 3% for inflation. So buying power is incorporated within that analysis.
So you are talking about buying power.
Correct. That's been incorporated into the analysis.
Even although we are losing every year about 0.5%.
Correct.
So we have to collect more from residents.
Both are noted within the analysis, yes.
Yeah, okay.
And if I may just add to your comment before with regards to, there was, I believe, 10.5 positions from GRF and a 5.5 split between United and Third. Please note that while we're focused here on Third, you are benefiting from the 10.5 decrease for GRF, right? Because each one of you pay both your Third assessment and GRF. So the effort that was performed as an overall reduction of about 16 positions, everyone is benefiting from that, even though we're focusing here on Third.
So when I look at myself, I'm the one, I sent out the email about the 2050 plan long time ago. I don't know you guys are ready, but I got some people say yes, some people say no. I got bad comments, some of them, but at any rate, so none of us gonna be here. I'm sorry, I cannot say none of us. Some of you gonna be here, but at least I'm not gonna plan to be here in the 2058. So I'm paying for quite a bit for that purpose. So are we willing to pay for that? Or we may 30-some% is just enough for us. I'm not gonna pay for, I'm not gonna be here in 30 years anyhow.
Right.
So that we have to make a decision.
At this point, we are benefiting from those who preceded us.
And if I can add to that, so the Civil Code, the laws that govern the community, we're required to present a 30-year plan. It's up to the board's direction to approve it on an annual basis. So right now we're focused on 2024, but we are providing a path for the future as required. So, but once again, it'll be up to the future boards to make that determination.
And it also has an impact on the value of your home. As the better funded you are, you'll be able to attract more buyers.
Yeah, Jose, I talked about, okay, my house went to, let's say, 200 grand to 400 grand in, let's say, 10 years. Okay, another chart at the budget meeting, the value of the third mutual community, 700 million went up to 1.6 million in 10 years. When you really look at it, 10 years, you look at the rule of 72, okay, 7 years you have to double if you make 10% every year, okay? So it's not a great deal investment. It went up, okay, it didn't go down, so I'm happy with it. But it's not a great deal of investment, okay? What I'm saying is we're talking about buying power. So the value went up, that's great, but my house is same. I cannot go out to buy a better house, it's same. On top of that, I'm paying more property tax, more insurance payment, which we're talking about here later, about insurance payment. So we cannot pay all the increased insurance payment, insurance premium. So we have to cut back down the coverage. We have to take more risk, which we didn't even discuss that here. So you said the value went up, we are happy. I don't know, we should be happy or not, because my house is same.
Okay. SK, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. A little bit of things that I want to ask you. First of all the questions I have regarding budget, I do have here. I'm going to ask these questions later after all finished. First question regarding to wage and compensation. Because it's combined GRF, United, and third expenses regarding wages, I like to see one chart shows what rate of wage compensation went up for non-union and union starting 2017 up to 2022. Those are actual expenditures for compensation. 2023 is not. And also, I want to see union FTE status for last 2017 to 2022. How many people increase or decrease as of end of each year? And also, what is the FTE status of end of each year of non-union people? Then I think we can say whatever happened, we can see the chart. Is it overcompensation or less compensation? Those kind of things, we can draw some conclusion. That chart I like to see.
All right, well, it's right in front of your screen there. I've put that chart up.
Yep.
It's on your screen, on your monitor, right in front of you. Here we have, this is non-union. Gives us an idea for the last 15 years what CPI is. So this is that blue line. And in green, the budgeted wage increases for that. So anytime that the green line is over the blue line, then your employees are having more purchasing power. Anytime that the blue line is over the green line, that means the CPI is outpacing wage increases. So you can see there, ever since 2017 onward, really CPI has been outpacing your budgeted wage increases. So essentially your employees are having less purchasing power.
Yeah, I understand. This compensation, how wages being increased the last 15 years, that's great chart. There's a missing part. That is, how many people were compensated for FTEs? This doesn't tell me that much.
All those budgeted numbers are provided not only to board members but also to residents.
Yes.
Under the
Yeah.
Green Book. They're published every year. They're on the website for the
Yeah.
last 7 years.
But, yeah, Green Book, I try to understand. I'm not a statistician or financial guys, but I try to understand all the numbers as I can. So what I like to compare is how many FTEs we have and how much we compensate each year. And then if we add IRS living cost adjustment of each year, then it will tell us what I think. That chart I like to see. If you don't understand what I'm saying, I can come out and help you out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
We understand.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Andy, did you have a question previously?
Thank you for remembering, Ralph. I have two questions. The first one concerns perhaps, and I've heard some reasons for it, the limitations we have on the repiping program in the Garden Villa units. There's a vendor limitation. You think, that you can go out and you can get these services, but I'm told, there's a limit on how fast we can do this, and it really bugs me, but if that's the reality, I think we ought to acknowledge that. The second thing is, there's an item in the plan that concerns landscape modernization. It's a big number, but the payoff is really big in the end. And I don't know if it'll come up in the questions, but I would hope that we would cover the benefits of the landscape modernization program, benefits which will come later, but we have to pay for some of it now. So pay me now versus paying a lot more later. And I hope we'll cover that in the comments. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Any more board comments? Jules?
Yeah, I have an admission to make. I don't think I'm particularly competent to analyze and judge any of or most of the hundreds of line items. I'm an entertainment litigator. Moon is a medical doctor. SK is an engineer. Ira owned and ran a jewelry company. Kush was in hotel and restaurant management. So for the most part, we're really required as fiduciaries to rely on the best information we can get. So for the most part, I'm going to defer, at least on the line items, to almost everything that's said here. What I'm going to recommend, but there are, we have 6,102 owners, of whom an awful lot are active or retired professionals. And there are a lot of really competent people that are available in our community who know an awful lot more about one or another line items. And so I'm going to suggest that we go out and from here on in, really go out and try to enlist people to come in and be our eyes and ears and handle individual line items. So we're really in a position to make some more well-founded judgments on this. And that is, I yield the balance of my time.
Thank you, Jules. Ira, go ahead.
Well, since Andy asked, I will mention a few of the things that Jose didn't mention with regards to the landscape modernization program. It also includes 10% of the total turf that we have to be removed around each building, simply because in order to comply with the OCFA guidelines, we need to move the bushes away from the building a bit, and that also prevents the slab degradation due to the moisture, reduction in termite habitat, reduction in damage of the stucco, reduction in damage of the wood that's around there. And the 10% reduction in the turf keeps the planter box areas around the buildings roughly the same or slightly larger to enhance the appearance. Not quite everything would come out as far as plant pulling out. It may come out, but a lot of things that can be put back in. So they would be dug up, held on the side, and put back in when everything is done, along with newer water-wise plantings that will require, as Andy has been mentioned here, less people to maintain. Over the life of the program, it's estimated to be about 10 less people needed to maintain all the vegetation that would be put back in. There's also be a reduction in water usage because around the buildings, in order to keep things green or colorful, we do need water, but we'll be able to reduce it with the use of a drip system rather than a spray system. This will also help with regards to liability of overspray on walkways, so you don't have any slip and falls, and just general degradation of the buildings due to overspray. We'll be using less water, period, because of that. So as far as the exacting plans, they're still being written up, but that's the general gist of what's going on. There'll probably be other savings there will be other savings, not probably, in other departments, as was mentioned here, for repairs and repainting and so on. There'll be less of that, and it'll be done quicker, which means less labor costs, less people needed. So there should be some FTE savings down the line with regards to maintenance and construction as well, which has not yet been figured in. So that's the overall answer to that.
In other words, by removing the shrubbery from the walls of the buildings, it simplifies the preparation for painting. Is that right?
Well, not just simplify it makes it quicker, makes repairs faster. Also, if the building eventually has to be tented, there won't be any damage to the landscape with that. It'll be quicker to set up with a tent around it, since there's going to be some space between the bushes and the building itself. We're not talking about 10 feet. We're talking about just a couple of feet. And there still will be tall bushes in the back, lower bushes in the front to give the similar looks that we have now, just with different bushes that require less maintenance and less water and more appropriate for our ever-changing climate, hopefully.
Okay, any other board members? Moon?
Thank you for Ira, your leadership in that. We're saving a lot of money, and hopefully everybody enjoy the beautiful sceneries.
Yeah.
Second one, I'm to adding the Jules' point. So we hire a lot of consultant, and so we got the 34% of a reserve fund. We hired some numbers. As Jules said, we have so many talent in this community. Most of our residents was very leaders of many other places, and we have to tap their talent. And so maybe we should, each time, or if we haven't done it, it's time we have to use their resource, their manpower, and their talent, and then set up some kind of resident advisory groups in many different areas. I strongly recommend it. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any more board member comments? Okay, at this time. Oh, SK,
Mr. Engel?
I'm sorry.
I
Raise
do
your hand
have
up
these
higher.
questions. Should I go ahead, ask a question now, or should I do it later?
Depends on how much I'd say how involved
it's
you are.
about-
You can go ahead and ask it now if you wish.
Okay, I will do that. Jose, I have all the copies of V1, is a version 1, version 2, and version 3. I went through all those numbers, And some interesting things that I found. First, line item 3, that is general services. 1.530940 was a V1. V2 was 1.356151. There was a reduction of 174,789. Is because we reduced from 4 times a month to 2 months, twice a month, every week or every other week. That's the reason it went down 174,789. And then V3, the last version, shows 1.369255, which is increase of $13,104. May I ask why? Okay.
We moved gutter cleaning from M&C to to general services.
Okay. But regardless, for the general service employee, we paying never mind. Line item 6, landscape, V1 increase 160, V1 to V2. I'm not going to number all numbers, but V1 to V2 increase is $160,138. That is for 2 FTE, right?
Yes, I think.
That
I'm happy to answer your questions. I just want to make sure that we provide the right value here.
Well, I'm just
going
reading
from
off
version-
from the V1, V2, V3 that you provide us, and I'm just reading off the numbers.
Sure.
And the
But
reason-
going version to version, I don't know how much value we're getting out. I think that we really want to compare it to last year or moving forward, but
No, I just saying V1, V2, V3 of this year budget. It has increase of $160,138. That's for 2 FTE. FTE means full-time employee.
yes.
Okay. To general service, 160,000 for 2 people. That's, to me, a little too much, but that's my opinion. Line item number 9, MNC. V1 was 1.896389. V2 was 3.875662. That is 1.979. That is a collection of backlog MNC chargeable services. Am I correct?
Correct.
Okay. But it's not come up to be 2.25, as we claim. But V3 went up 4.151494. V3 is a current budget that you provided a couple days ago. That is 275,832. My question is why?
The overall increase, there was a lot of movement back and forth.
Okay.
But overall, the total change.
I
was a
will
slight
give you all
decrease.
this, and then you can answer us next time.
And again, to
Yeah,
what end?
I-
I just want to make sure that we're providing more value
Yeah,
here.
I'm trying to squeeze out of your memory, so I'm sorry to do that, but I don't have any other things to reference here. Line 11, non-work center. V1 is 6.709347 to V2 7008244. That is an increase of 298,897. I did not know that, but V3 went down 6.657378. Thank you. That was a decrease of 350,866. That was good. Line item 13, replacement fund, 11,422,944. That was one same as V2, 11,422,944. And then V3, $12,841,293. This is directive of board members' agreement, am I correct?
That's correct.
Okay. What if we stay 11,422,944? What will happen?
And again, this was for the reserves? Is that correct?
Yes, I understand that.
So we'll go back to that slide if I may. Two more forward. That one. So the question is, hey, why did this increase fairly substantially from version 2 to version 3? And that is because in version 3, we began with this prior to paint landscape that we just talked about. So before that, that just didn't exist. So now we have this brand new program that we're spending $1.5 million on for the next 15 years. Obviously, that needs to come from somewhere. So the end result was that was going to come from replacement. So with this new program, the board thought it was prudent to increase the contribution to the reserves.
Okay, I understand. If we stay V2, which is about last month budget, is 156 per manor per month. If we stay there, we'll save about, what, $20? Close to it?
Yeah, about
So
$1.5 million. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's what I was thinking. What if we stay
Then your
from V3 to V2?
Then your reserve fund would decrease by $1.5 million.
Yes, I understand.
Then on your chart on the previous slide, you're going to start dipping into the red on this
Okay.
chart. So you're going to end up with lower percent funding.
Yes, thank you. Some minor changes that I noticed that line 1 is, I don't know, from V1, V2, V3, V2, V3, version 2, version 3 that I'm comparing. I believe you have computer programming all these, yet there's some changes in numbers very slightly. So I did write down all these numbers. So I'm wondering why, although it's a computer programming, it's been changed.
Sure.
For
So the
sake
question
of-
is, why are there slight changes between iterations? Because we're continuously looking at your budget. We're continuously looking to see where we can change. Did we miss anything? I'll give you a couple of examples that are on here that you may notice. We have been recently running a program asking residents to opt out of mailouts, meaning instead of mailing that big old thick packet to your home, we ask you to receive it electronically, and we got some pretty good traction on that. So to that end, we were actually able to reduce your budget.
Okay.
We were able to reduce it in a couple of different locations, outside services for printing all this mail out, and also the postage. So we're continuously looking at that, and that gets reduced, and then that gets allocated across a couple of different departments. So you'll see it on a couple of different lines. We also were taking a look at our, if you want to get down to the nitty gritty, our FUI and SUI contributions. We saw that it was overstated in a couple of different areas, so we reduced that. So a lot of the changes that you're talking about are decreases that we're looking at continuously. They're pretty minor, so we're not bringing them up individually. But yes, these are absolutely iterations and drafts of the budget. So that's why I'm a little hesitant to compare version to version. It just doesn't add a lot of value. Let's talk big picture, because overall you saw reductions.
Okay, so my final is, since it's on the TV screen, if we stay from V3 to V2 on reserve fund, we are on the green or yellow. Is not really disaster kind of status. So we can lower the HOA fee. Even $1 is $1 lower. So that's what I'm thinking. Thank you.
And again, the rebuttal to that would be, right now would be the time to take advantage of your one-time windfall of your moisture intrusion events backlog, and use that to buff up these reserves, because anything that you don't do now is going to be even more difficult to fund later, as some of your counterparts have found.
Yeah, I understand. Even it's windfall, That's their money, not our money. It's their money. If I can save 1 penny, I would love to do that. That's their money we're spending. Thank you.
That windfall that you speak of was money that was already spent.
That's correct.
So it's not really a windfall, it's a recoup.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you. You're right.
Question?
No, it's not a question. It's really a comment. I had mentioned, and Moon underscored it. The point is that we have a lot of potential volunteers to work and to help in areas that might substantially cut down the budget. The board recently had a discussion of whether we should be cutting the maintenance, the service, the sweeping out of the elevator room and the mail rooms in the Garden Villa buildings. And I had suggested that perhaps that is an area in which people could actually volunteer. What are there? A couple of dozen. No, well, I have to tell you, when I used to commute to New York, I would run a 10K from Maplewood to Newark, and invariably, I would go by a lot of houses, and there were all these little old ladies who were sweeping out there, and they, we have a big breezeway in our six-pack. We are the unhappy recipients of all this detritus. There's a dying tree, and so as a consequence, staff doesn't sweep it out. My wife and I sweep it out. What I'm saying is there's a lot of areas where we actually can encourage people to volunteer. And volunteerism does an awful lot for the community. It is much more social. UCI did a study which suggested that the reason that people in Laguna Woods live so much longer is because of our social life. Volunteerism is the perfect example of that. So what I'm suggesting is
Jules,
we do.
Thank you, Jules.
Well, I'm glad. I'm glad I could have gotten the discussion started.
Thank you, Jules. It basically is saying if you see trash, pick it up and throw it away. Okay, are there any other board comments?
Ralph, one question. So if I may, so Andy, you made a request with regards to pipe restoration services, and I think it was a comment as opposed to a question, but we've asked Manuel Gomez to come down if you wanted to ask a question pertaining to that subject. The concern was, I believe, the cost of the services, whether or not we have, there's only a couple of vendors who are able to complete those services.
Oh, that was in relation to
because
the
what I've heard
pipelining.
is in relation to the pipelining and the copper pipe remediation, that there are some real world limits to what we can do. Personally, I wish we can get it done as soon as, whatever, but there are some limits, and I think we ought to lay that out front to see if that's the case, then we have realistic expectations. Personally, like I said, if I was living in the Garden Villa, I'd be concerned about the pipes busting and all, and, I put a lot of money into whatever, and then even though insurance probably will cover it, it's a lot of hassle. It's just something that I wouldn't want to live with. Anyway, I was hoping before I learned all this that, we could accelerate the program, and there are ways to do that, but we've got this vendor limitation, and I'd like to hear a little bit more about that vendor limitation. And I think they would too.
I think you said Manuel's going to come down and explain that. But I think basically not every plumber is able to reline pipes. So there's a few companies that know that procedure, have the equipment, and can do it, but they have other business too. So it's a matter of availability on that point.
Yeah, I get it. That a specialist, somebody that specializes in that will give you the best price because economies of scale.
Yeah.
And this particular, for a larger plumbing outfit or pipe outfit, this might be a small part of their business, and therefore, if you want to get the work done, you're going to pay more. As a board, we have an obligation to balance need versus cost. We just can't go and throw money at something. We want to do it where we get value, and this is a problem right now. We have a problem. I just want to get that out front, okay? That's all I ask is, give me some of the real-world realities of this
There's
situation.
two limitations that I see. One is the cost of it, and the other is, and there may be ways around that, the other is just availability of people who can do the job.
Well, that's the thing. If you want something done and people aren't available, you're going to have to pay. You know, we all face that. If you want somebody really good, you're going to pay because they're in demand. That's a real-world reality, and we're trying to balance that. And, you know, I think we've done a decent job on it, but I want to hear more about it. I want to hear, because I don't think people realize, perhaps, that there are real-world limits on what we can do, and it's frustrating. You know, you kind of think, and today, if I've got the money, I can get it. Well, that's not true anymore. A lot of stuff is, we can't get stuff we used to be able to get. No matter what you pay, you can't get it. It's not available. That's really frustrating because it's not a matter of paying for something. It's just not available. So anyway, I hope we talk about it. Thank you.
Okay.
Chairman, we have a room full of people who have been
Yeah.
very patient.
Okay,
They're here for a purpose.
I realize that. I think it's time to get ahead unless there's other serious.
No, I'll ask her later.
SK, can that wait until later? Okay, let's open us up for comments from the audience and online, whatever you have.
Okay, so
My apologies, sir. We're going to go ahead and draw from the cards that we have. And you might be the first one, but that's okay. So cards are available to your left at the podium right over here. But Erica will be pulling people from the audience. Thank you.
okay, so I'm gonna go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and start calling off of the cards I already have. Okay, first we have Sherry Horn, Manor number 2354, Unit 3C.
Sherry Horn, 2354. I have been in GVA for 18 years, and I've been its past president, and my parents have lived in the same unit since 1986, so we're very familiar with Garden Villa buildings. Cutting our cleaning, that's what I want to talk about, is your desire to cut the cleaning of janitorial services. We volunteer now. We clean the laundry rooms, but in between the cleanings, it still gets dirty. We pay more than anybody else in this community. As you see your numbers here, we pay over $400,000 more. This is a quality of life issue for us. These rooms get dirty. The rec rooms get dirty if they get used. We're not going to drag our vacuum cleaners downstairs to clean the rec room. We pay for this. These buildings get very dirty. The laundry rooms get very dirty. Every single person that comes into this building, whether it's VMS, a delivery person, a workman, for 24 families comes up and down that elevator. Dogs pee on the elevator. Food leaks on the elevator when we have building parties. We end up cleaning this frequently. We need these buildings cleaned every week. They get dirty from all the construction that goes on. Right now, they're jackhammering the foundations of my building. The 405 freeway is going to be done. There's particulate matter that lands on there from the trees. These buildings get filthy. Maybe none of you live in there, but we do, and we really need this. So I'm asking you to retain our janitorial services. We pay over $450,000 a year extra over and above. And to reduce our quality of life, you're only going to save $198,000. You want to improve life for people in this community, yet 30% of the community will have reduced quality of life the minute you do this. Anyone with allergies or immunosuppressed system will have additional pollen and dirt all over everything that will just build up. You talk about resale value. What realtor is going to want to show anyone in between a 2-week cycle? Those buildings get so dirty even after a week, and the workmen do not clean up. If there's a repair in the laundry room, they leave it like that. Now, our building captain has to clean, or they have to wait till the janitorial to come and clean it up. Please don't reduce our cleanings. We need this for enjoyment of the building and just day-to-day getting by. To reduce this on 30% of your community, it would have a huge impact on us. I appreciate that you're trying to find money anywhere you can, but this has a direct impact on our quality of life. So thank you very much.
Ralph. I'm going to make one comment that I should have made before we got into this phase.
Turn your mic on.
It's on. It's on. Maybe I have to eat the microphone. Can you hear me now? Yes. Okay. What we need to do is limit the time for anybody's talk to 3 minutes, which is kind of a standard anyway. And no giving of your time to somebody else. You can't do that. And we're going to try to hold this whole open session to about 30 minutes. We don't want to be real hard and fast in the 3 minutes, but we're going to try to hold that. If you can give us some kind of a warning after 3 minutes, can you do that? Okay. That would help, and then we can move this thing along faster, okay? Thank you for your comments.
Ralph, I just want to say, I really thought that was an extremely convincing argument, and I have completely reconsidered my thoughts about that because, because I never was, I never considered the rec rooms, and the rec rooms are, I've enjoyed them, and as a consequence, I understand that there is a legitimate argument. My idea for volunteerism is just volunteerism. It's not necessarily a replacement for what we're otherwise required to do. So thank you for your comment.
Let's go ahead. Next.
Next, we have Mr. John Looney, manor number 3735, Unit 2C. Sorry can you go ahead and say your manor?
Yeah, John Loney. Got one out. Am I to understand that even though some of the buildings don't have rec rooms, we're still paying for others who do have rec rooms? The way you presented it was that we all are in one pot.
So, yeah, there is a surcharge for buildings with garden villas, and that's specifically for the rec rooms.
All right. But those of us without rec rooms don't pay that.
That's correct.
Thank you. All of us have lost about 25% of our income on fixed income salaries. You're aware of that. I want to know whether we hear salaries, we hear income for the workers, the maintenance people. Are they on salary? Do we pay for their retirement funds? What do we do with all this massive, I mean, they're great workers. But what do we do with them? Do we pay their pensions?
We're not going to go have back and forth between audience members and this, but the quick answer is yes. Yes, we do.
I don't want that anymore. I want to cut down to $600 a month association fee. Okay? I want everybody on contracts. I want to cut the workforce down by 50%. I want street sweepers once a month, building sweepers once a month, grass cutters and blowers twice a month. We have to figure out ways to get us down to $600 a month association fee, because we've all lost 25% due to massive federal spending and the war on fossil fuels. Thank you.
Okay.
Next up, we have Mr. John Pearson, manor number 2354.
Good morning. Representing Building 2354, I wanted to defer most of my time to Sherry Horn. She is a great leader, has been for a long time in this community. I'm relatively new in the community and the new building captain pro tem in training. I was asked by our community to share with you, we strongly disagree with the removal of our cleaning or not the discontinuance of it, but the limitation of it, the reduction of it. And with that, I will just retire to let you have the rest of it. I want to thank you for your service on the board. Having been in your place at other communities, I appreciate the effort that you make.
Thank you. On behalf of the board, thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and call two at a time. So the first name we have is Robert Stace, manor number 80. And then the second person we have is Bob Fishko, manor number 2397, unit 3E.
Thank you, board. Appreciate the time. It's ridiculous to cut back the cleaning. The walkways, the dirt, it can't be done. You need to continue once a week. It's just unfeasible. It's the cobwebs on the railing. People spill coming to and from their manor to the laundry room, to the trash. They spill on the walkway. They're filthy in a week. You cannot do this. You've got to stop it. It's just not. You need to cut somewhere? Cut the number of times you street sweep. They do a terrible job to begin with. The guy drives too fast. He does a lousy job when he shows up. Frequently, they don't even show up. They just don't come. So there's got to be other places. But cleaning the building, everyone in my building is livid. Just livid. Thank you.
Bob Fishko, 2397, Unit 3E. The talk about the cleaning and the aesthetics, I think we can all agree on. But what hasn't been said is I was a college administrator for many years. And every time we had a budget crisis, we had a vice president of finance, then we got a new president who decided, let's cut back on cleaning and maintenance. And they did. And 2 years later, it cost us 3 times the amount of money to put the community, the campus back into the condition it should have been in because of deferring all of this activity. And by not cleaning, we're going to wind up having to put a lot more money into other kinds of maintenance in the building to restore what hasn't been cleaned. And I think it's absurd to look at that and say, well, this is going to save us money. It's not. It's going to cost us a lot more money in the long run. The other thing you talked about was the increase in electricity costs. In my particular building, all of the corridor lights go on at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And we're burning electricity for 4 hours a day, every day, lighting corridors that daylight is still out. And nobody comes around to change the time clocks every time we have a change in time. And that's costing us a lot of money for all of that lighting. So I think, we need to take a look at these various items and not just say, well, we're going to save money on cleaning. You're not going to save money on cleaning. It's going to cost us a lot more in the long run. Thank you. And I thank the board. Having been on a prior board for 4.5 years, I know what a thankless job it is, and I just want to thank you for all your work. Thank you.
One comment about the electricity. You have to balance that with sending a man around to make the changes in those settings, or following the timer setting. Some of those buildings aren't timers.
There are maintenance people in the building
Some of them
regularly.
aren't timers, some are sensors.
Yeah. But our building happens to be timers. And there are maintenance people who are always in the building, so somebody can come in. It takes 5 minutes to
If
go.
they know what they're doing,
There's
yeah.
2 timers to adjust them.
Yeah. That has been considered during the past year, and the conclusion was to turn most of them on, if they're on timers, at 4 o'clock in order to save the personnel from doing it. So that has been considered, and
Well, if
there
you-
has to be a balance.
But if you're doing that in all the buildings, look at the cost of the electricity.
Yeah, I realize that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Mr. Alfred Wong and manor number 3421, Unit 1A. And second, we'll have Lorna, and sorry if I mispronounce it, Suong?
Just a moment.
Manor number 55103C.
One second. Ralph, are we responding to each individual after they speak, or are we going to wait till they all finish and then respond to them?
We probably should wait until they're afterwards, because a lot of these are repeat.
I understand.
about
That's
the
why I
cleaning.
wanted to ask you that question.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a couple of my, well, I did comment on the one, but yeah, maybe we should try to save them till afterwards. Most of these so far have been against the cutting and cleaning, so go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Board, and thank you for all your services. I just echo, I live in 3421 1A, the 3-story building, and I just want to echo all the previous speakers that it's a perception. Think about it. For next year, our fee will be going to increase by $35. On one hand, our service cutting down, no cleaning. I mean, think about it when you have a perception things, right? Costs going up every year, and then our service cut down, and also the quality of life, because I don't know how many of you live in the 3-story. I just moved in about a couple months ago, and I see a lot of debris, a lot of dirty things in the laundry room or in the rep room. So, I mean, on one hand, I see next year $35 increase of fee, and then one hand, our service cutting down. That's one observation. And the other observation I see in the budget is the landscaping or modernization. We're going to spend a $1.9 million for that one. And when I look at the budget, the landscaping for next year is going to be an 8% increase. And I realize that the modernization will be coming down later year, right? But do we see any benefit in the coming year for spending that much money, and also the landscaping fee increase by 8%? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Lorna Sung at 5510 3C. I've been here for 11 years in the 3-story building, and I've been building captain since 2019. Our building need to be continue with cleaning every week, because if you skip a week, it goes disaster. And you're trying to cut the budget for cleaning versus we have light stay on all day, on the wall. And when I walk around the Paseo del Lago Part 3 courses, all the street lights are on. Cut those down first before you cut down our cleaning. And another thing is, I call for little leak under our water heater in the rec room. Following day, they came and start changing, and they have pipe sticking out, and the cabinet door was half open. So I called to report, you need to do some warning on it. Somebody will be walking into that area not knowing the cabinet door is open. So then, following day, I found a puddle under the refrigerator. So I said, please do not let anybody in until you guys cleaning up. Guess what I did following day? Instead of mopping those waters under the refrigerator, they turned the fan on 2 days straight. Think about the electricity on that, 2 days of electricity. It was simple mopping. It was water standing was from changing the heater. They just need to mop that water instead of turning the fan on 48 hours straight. Thank you.
Thank you.
What is your manor number, madam?
Ma'am,
What is your manor number, meaning the building number?
5510.
Thank you.
Next, we have Stefan Baum, manor number 969, Unit 2A, and then we'll have Shirley Eslinger, thank you, manor number 2354.
My name is Steve Baum, and I live at 969, the only three-story building in Gate 1, that side. I've lived there for 10 years. I think in the past 2 or 3 years, the maintenance around the buildings has been much better than it used to be. The one issue that I have with it is we have a lot of those trees that the leaves fall, plus the pine trees, the leaves fall. And so if it takes 2 months for somebody to come around and clean, by about the end of, say, 5 weeks, we have leaves and the pine leaves all over the place because we have a very big area of grass. We're not together like the other 81 buildings are together, and they don't have as much land, or if they do, it's the golf course. Well, if we had a little bit more power, the captains had a little bit more power, we'd be at least able to call up somebody and ask for some service. And I know a couple of years ago they said they were going to have somebody available for that specifically, to clean up around your building. But it never really went anywhere. So that's one thought. Another thought about the captains are, if you gave us copies of the paint, P-A-I-N-T, then we could take care of the rips and the sores and the bumping against all the walls and everything, and keep those clean. You don't have to have a maintenance guy come over and keep those clean. Another thing that we could do with captains, and we have a choice of 24 people to choose from to help us with all that stuff. Another thing that we can do is when somebody comes over to do our maintenance landscape, they could see us and we can tell them, like I've got hedges all the way around. Do you know that in 10 years those hedges are the same height? Because that's what they do. They cut off all the new branches and all the new this and new that, even rose bushes down to here. I mean, I would ask them to understand that we want it to look really pretty and let it all grow. Apparently that's going to be an issue now too. Another thing is, I never heard any comments from the executive committee about people's hours. the workers' hours and their performance. I was a manager for 45 years in 4 major companies in Southern California. And anytime they talked about budgets, they talked about what could we do with people, because that's what we control. It's 50% of what we pay in our budgets, and that's what we can have a control over. We don't. Number one, I don't think a manager of maintenance or a manager of, well, I met the manager of the painting of the buildings, and he was terrific. He was on it. I mean, those guys jumped too, you know? There was no wasted time. He was really good. And that's how you got all your 81 buildings painted. But maintenance, or not maintenance, but landscape, there's no manager. I don't know who's in charge of that, to tell you the truth. But that is needed so that we get more work in the hour, of the hour.
Can you wind it up? Your
Of
time
course.
is.
I'm going to wind it up like that man wound it
Your
up.
time.
Not Yun. I
No.
think he took some of our time, you know.
No, that's,
Oh, he
that's,
didn't?
that's
okay.
board,
That's
that's a
okay.
board discussion. I want to limit your
Very
time to
good.
3
I'm
minutes.
sorry. I don't like
Okay.
to be impolite. I think the supervisors who are in charge of those teams that they send out to get maintenance done, there should be a time frame on what they do. It just doesn't seem that
Okay.
they get enough work done. And maybe that's a place to save money.
I'm going to ask you to wrap it up so we
I'm
can let
going to wrap
somebody
it
else
up
up
right
for a
now.
little bit.
We do need those people cleaning every week.
All right, thank you.
Shirley Eslinger, 2354. I'm in Unit 3F. I am the building captain emeritus. So I've had 4 years of being building captain, and I've heard many of these things before. But I've come from a different thought pattern. I, too, oppose having our cleaning cut. I talk to the woman almost every week when she comes to clean, and I'm out there visiting with her as I watch her clean. You would be amazed as to what she sweeps up, dusts up, wipes off, that is there from 1 week, and you want us to go every 2 weeks. Now, if we use the rec room, 2 weeks, we have to wait for someone to come in and vacuum and clean off the tables or whatever that needs to be done. Mail room. Who do you think empties the waste baskets on Thursday for trash pickup? I do, because she doesn't come till Monday. So you want me to continue to do this for Mondays and Thursdays in between? No. And if I think the time or the mindset for a lot of people is we pay a lot in HOA dues, we shouldn't have to do this. I bet you've heard that many times, many, many times. So I'm coming from the point of view, I resigned in December after 4 years because I felt that I was an unpaid employee of Laguna Woods. I have a work ethic. My boss loved me. I retired at 80, and he loved me and didn't want me to do it because I have a work ethic. And I managed bringing in the plumbers and the repairman for our office building, which he owned. So it was a good deal. But then I come from South Dakota, where work ethics are really up there. So I oppose taking away our cleaning each week. Okay?
Thank you.
And the last two we have here, first up, we'll have Joanne Allen, manor number 3335, unit 2F, and then Mr. Stuart Hack, manor number 2393, unit 3D.
My name is Jeannie Allen, 3335 2F. I have been a resident here for 20 years, have seen a lot of things, hearing a lot of the same problems as many others that have been here a long time. I too am a captain emeritus of my building. My building is an L21. We have only 21 units, and we have walkways in front of our manors. I live high enough east and west. When I open my doors, my slider and my front door, I get wonderful breezes, but I get all the crap, excuse my language, all the dust, all the stuff, trees falling down, cutting trees, and all of that comes in my house. I'm allergic to pine. I live with pine. I deal with it, but it just keeps coming in my house. So I have to clean my house every day. I'm disabled. It's a little hard. I have to pay somebody once a week to come clean all that dust out of my house. Also, I have a lot of allergies. So it's not healthy for me to live here. And I hope that I'll be able to live here for the rest of my life, because that's what I wanted when I moved here. But HOAs go up like they've been going up. They've tripled since I started here. They were around $315. So please consider us your seniors. You're serving us. All of you are serving us. And you're our employees, and we need respect and help. Thank you.
Thank you. How many more speakers do we have? One more? All right, go ahead.
I'm Stuart Hack, 2393 3D. I'm president of the Gardenville Association. You have a lot of people here because you have the Gardenville Association. We represent the people who live in three-story buildings. And this is, for me, deja vu. This is not the first time we've been down this road of asking you, please, please, keep our buildings clean. The reason why the Gardenville Association exists is because we need a voice. This goes all the way back to when the association started many years ago, when the money that we paid into our rec rooms was used for other purposes by Third Board. And Third Board thought they were entitled to do that. Without a voice, that's when we got our voice. That's when we realized that a lot of people just don't understand what goes on in third-story buildings. So we are not like every other building. In the Garden Villa buildings, you have 24 units. You have no other building like that in this, in Third Mutual. Nothing like it. You've got 24 units. You've got roughly 40 people walking in and walking out. You've got a mail room that almost everybody walks through in order to get to the elevator to go up to their units after they've parked their car. You have laundry rooms on every floor. They get dirty. They get used. That's what they're there for. They're used by everybody in our buildings. You've got the rec rooms downstairs that have bathrooms that need to be cleaned, carpets that need to be cleaned. On the first floor, first living floor, you've got recessed areas that are covered with green carpeting that collect every kind of matter of dust and dirt that's available in our community. They need to be cleaned. You can't compare our buildings to any other buildings in your Third Mutual environment. We need our cleaning to be done for us. Please. And I thank you all. You know, I see you all almost every week. And you do a great job. So we're just trying to do our best to inform you and ask you to help us, please. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't want to cut anybody off. Do we have more?
No, that was the last speaker.
Do we have any call-ins or any emails? Okay.
I don't have
Well, that's
any.
good. And I think it's time we end this anyway. I want to thank you all for your comments. I think I've made probably a dozen notes here. By far, most of them want to keep the weekly cleaning service. There were a couple of them relating to the lights being on. We'll look at that again. On the board, one of our big jobs that takes a good deal of the year is trying to get your money's worth for you and not overcharge you. We have a wide variety of people, wide variety of demands and situations, and the problem we have is bringing this all together to something workable for everybody, and we try. But I want to thank all of you for your inputs today. The board has heard it, and like I say, this is not the final iteration yet. This was the third one. The final comes in how much longer?
So the third something will be submitted to the third board for the third Tuesday in September?
In September, okay. So there's still time at this point. We have time to make some more tweaking to the program, and I'm sure that staff will do that, and we have heard you. I think at this time then we'll just ask the board if they have any more comments, and to kind of keep it short, we're getting along. SK, do you have anything more?
Yeah, I do have. You want to start from me?
Well,
okay.
It depends on what it is, kind of use your judgment. It may be something you need to get together with staff and go over in detail.
No, I just want to
depending
make
what
a
it is.
comment to everybody here.
Okay, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Please understand, we're doing our best to lower the cost to you, not us. And we're trying to make the best judgment of all. My biggest problem that I observed for 4 months on this board is efficiency of workers. Please help me to identify those areas. I found already 4 instances of inefficiency workers. And I will try to find more of those. 2, lower your cost, HOA fees. I feel it's way too high. It has to come down. That's my feeling as well. Thank you.
Okay, Andy, no comment. Moon, any further comment? Okay, Jules? No more comment? Ira, no comment?
So,
Yes, Ralph, thank you. Appreciate all the emphatic comments from everybody in the 3-story building. We are, just like you, residents of the Third Mutual, and I feel your, whatever you said was very important. But I also want to bring something to your attention. It's just kind of numbers. We have about 1,400 plus buildings in the Third Mutual. And we only clean the garden villa or the 3-story buildings. So the rest of the buildings that we have are being cleaned by the residents of those buildings. So, no, stop. Steve, according to what we discussed, the cleaning is part of our main budget, correct?
I want to clarify that. So what we're talking about today is going to be the cleaning specifically for Garden Villa and for the LH21s, the 3-story buildings. The savings generated is shared by everyone. So everybody, it's a shared cost. Everybody.
Shared cost means the entire 1,400 buildings.
Yes.
So that's what I want everybody to know, that we also share that cost with the 3-story buildings. So it's nothing that we are trying to take away from you, but we are trying to find, hold on. This is a discussion, right? So give me a chance to talk. We gave you the 3 minutes or more to talk. So please understand that we all share that cost. We're not trying to take anything away.
Please,
It's
please.
just like you pay for the bus service, it's just like that. We all pay.
Wait a minute.
It's right here in your budget, how much extra we pay for our cleaning.
Yes,
Hold on a
we
moment, sir.
recognize
So,
that.
I do want to clarify.
Can you please
Go ahead.
help the gentleman understand?
Sure. I want to clarify, the surcharge, the $6.25 surcharge is specifically for the items inside the rec room. So it's replacement of those tables, they do flooring in there, they do appliances that are in there. That's all that the surcharge is for. As far as the cleaning is concerned, that's shared by the membership by all 6,102.
Semantics.
No, sir.
We know what you're doing. Okay? You're taking our money and you're spending it someplace else.
No, there is
No.
a rec room subcommittee. Please,
Find that explanation. That's all.
Excuse me, if we have questions or comments from the audience, I encourage you to use the microphone so those online can benefit from your comments.
I don't need my.
it's all right, but please
Wait.
try to understand, I'm not trying to take anything away from you, but please please understand. We are trying to. You're doing it's a great job that we also have to do the same thing for everybody. And so I hear you all.
Please be quiet and let him finish talking.
It's okay. If you don't want to hear me, I'll just stop. But I just want to bring things to your attention.
We understand.
Okay. So please try to hear. I'm not trying to change anything here. I hear you. Please hear me. That's all I said. That there are 1,400 buildings in the third mutual, and the three-story buildings are the only one that gets this special treatment of getting there. Yes. So
Please, I'm going to
Sorry.
ask the audience, but please be quiet
If you
and let him finish speaking.
Yes.
Thank you.
When we went to school and college, just like the gentleman who was the administrator in the college said, that was the hardest time to change things, we were also taught to clean after us. So if you drop something, so pick it up, clean yourself.
Please be quiet in the
It's all
audience.
right.
Thank you very
Let it
much.
go.
Let us finish this meeting.
It's all right. Go ahead.
Okay.
I'm done.
Steve, do you have any more comments?
Only to assist with the momentum of the budget. Would the board be interested in making a motion on making a change to this current version?
Okay. I guess, well, this is a formal meeting. This is a legitimate meeting. We do have a board representation here. We can certainly make that recommendation to the staff that we consider maintaining the weekly service. From the looks of the demand here, that's what the people want. At this time, should we, well, it's a little bit late, but should we maintain a motion?
So,
Should we
let me help you
entertain a
out here.
motion to
It-
maintain that?
If this is what you're looking for, we're looking for a motion to add $198,431 to bring weekly cleaning to three-story buildings. And we would incorporate that into your final version of the budget, and that will be presented to you for ultimate approval at your September 19th meeting.
And I so move.
No.
It will include a change to the budget, and it will probably increase the budget fee.
The increase will be $2.71 per matter per month.
How much?
$2.71.
Okay.
But this is not for the, it is for the third mutual, not for the garden villas.
That's
cor-
for the
that's correct.
entire third.
For everyone in third.
Everybody. Okay. In other words, we'll all pay for it. Okay, do we have a motion to increase that?
I made the motion.
Made a motion, do we have a second? There's a second, okay. SK seconds. Okay, let's, all.
Well, I have a,
Do we take a vote on the?
Rob,
looks like there's comments.
I have comment.
Okay, open comment, yeah.
First of all, procedurally, what you are doing is wrong. Any staff doesn't have any right to make a motion. Only board members make a motion. This motion was originated from Steve and Jose.
They suggested making the motion.
I clarified
The motion
numbers.
was made by Jules, second by SK. Okay, so if there's more discussion, that's fine, but I want you to understand that.
Okay, I'm kind of disappointed. Okay, the reason I'm saying is I was so happy when I walked in because this is a very important budget meeting. All day talking about cleaning operational problem. Nothing to do with the budget, whole thing.
Oh, that
such
is a budget.
important.
That is a
None
budget
of them are mentioning that. I'm very disappointed. They are talking about just operational, what they are cleaning something. Majority of them, what I heard, about 30 minutes. Okay, it is important to them, but we are talking about such, our budget is about 150 million. We have a third measure about 50 million. None of them are talking about. I don't have any problem. Garden Villa are paying extra. Okay, we have to use those extra, make them happy, whatever, because they are paying for it. But if they are asking other people to pay for that, what they have to make that, I think that is wrong. You are asking somebody living, as Kushi said, somebody living at nothing to do with Garden Villa, you asking us to pay, those people to pay, I think you are too much. So if you want to clean your own, pay your own, I don't have any problem set up the separate budget for Garden Villa.
Now, okay. Any more discussion on this? We have a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. We've had discussion, or we're having discussion. Now, go ahead.
Yeah, there's assertions being made. Garden Villa pays money in. Expenses are incurred for the Garden Villa. I have not seen any kind of account. I'm an accountant by trade. I haven't seen any kind of P&L in a sense for the Garden Villa. So for us to say they're getting value for the money, I think is premature. I don't know. I would like
let's put it
to
up on
see
your
some sort
screen.
of P&L before we make any kind of final determination in terms of fairness. We're talking about fairness, I think. We don't have the data. So that's my point is I think we need more information and maybe we perhaps today jumped the gun a bit, but that's what I would like to look. I'd like to see some more information.
May I clarify a little bit? So we keep talking about what Garden Villa specifically pays for, just the members inside the Garden Villa Association. That's what you see on your screen right now. They pay $6.50, a grand total of $96,000. So it's very specific to what happens inside the Garden Villa rec room. That's the only individual thing that they pay for. You can see it there on your screen. It's not, has nothing to do with
We also
cleaning.
pay for elevators. Elevators.
Yes, but that's different.
It's not different.
But we are not talking
May I
about
speak,
elevators.
please? May I speak, please? Because I think there's misinformation here. First of all, we are a cost-sharing community. I don't use the buses, but I pay for them. I don't use the tennis courts, but I pay for them. And there are lots of things. I don't use any of the clubhouse for, none of it, but I share in the cost of it. We have a cost-sharing community here. And if you're going to say, just because you're the only one who gets the benefit, I shouldn't pay for it, you are destroying this community.
We are not saying that.
Yes, you are. Come on, stop.
All right.
Now also, so what we pay extra for is for elevators and for our rec rooms. Right. We're not here complaining about that. That was the rules of the game. We agreed to it. But if you're going to get to the point where you don't think this is a cost-sharing community, then we'll put that one back on the table. Why should we be paying for these things?
Thank you. There are a number of things. Please, let's stop. There are a number of things in this community that are cost-sharing. That has been decided in years past. We're not going to go there and try to redo that today. The only thing on the board today, the only thing the motion, wait a minute. The motion on the floor was to change our budget, which amounts to an increase of $2 per month per manor for everybody, all 6,000 members, for the purpose of providing weekly cleaning service or maintaining weekly cleaning service to the Garden Villa buildings, all the 3-story buildings. That's what's on the discussion right now. We'll limit the discussion to that and that alone. And it's basically among the board at this point. I think the motion has been made and seconded that we put that back on the budget. We're about to take a vote unless there's any more board discussion.
I'd like to make an amendment.
Go ahead.
I'd like to continue on what Andy has said, and I'd like to table this and look at other parts of the budget to see if we can put this back in and reduce other parts of the budget before we take a vote on this.
I will second that.
Okay.
Because I don't want to really go up any more than. we're
Okay,
already
then we have to
projecting.
withdraw the former motion.
No, I don't withdraw it.
You're not going to withdraw it?
No,
It's a bit-
I'm gonna, but
Okay.
what, I'd like to say, we're now talking, this discussion has gotten off track.
Yeah.
What the discussion is today is to change what we have been doing for years. So it's the budget, it's the proposed budget that's the real change, because everybody has been used to the fact that, correct me if I'm wrong, there has been weekly cleaning of the buildings. And now what this budget is proposing to do is to cut that substantially. And I think that we should recognize that. And what we're really saying now is we should just put the things back where they were to begin with. If we're going to make a radical change, and it's a radical change not for us, it's a radical change for these guys, no, we really, that is something that we should recognize, that is a substantial interference with their quality of life. That's all I say.
One point of clarification. What we're talking about is the overall budget for third. We're not talking about the special override or auxiliary charge for the Garden Villa. That charge is for your rec room. It is not for what we're talking about today. We're talking about the general budget to all of third. And what it amounts to is if we're going to put $2 per manor per month back in, we're going to have to try to find somewhere else to save that amount of money. Whether we can or not it's a budget consideration. And all we're doing today is voting. We are voting as a board. We have a motion on the floor. We have a second, and we're discussing putting that back in the budget. That's all we're discussing at this point. Now, is there any more discussion on that, or are we ready to take a vote?
I'm
Ralph,
seconding the.
we have an
Ira's,
amendment on the floor.
The proposal.
I'm sorry.
To table it.
We don't have an alternate proposal right now. We've got a motion on the board. Those in favor of putting that back in, raise your right hand.
Ralph, we have an amendment on the floor.
Okay.
And we need to first take care of that. And then we can take care of the main motion. Okay? So the
Okay, but
amendment
the motion,
was-
the amendment is going to take time to dig out some information,
So
am I
we
right?
can, the amendment is that we will put this on hold and discuss it and find a way how we can augment the budget in a way that we can accommodate all
Okay.
the three-story
Okay.
buildings. Can't make that decision today, according to me. It's
Well,
too early.
the motion today is to put this back on the budget. Now, if we're going to look at it further, we need to withdraw that motion and look further. Steve?
If we need to, we should.
Correct. So Ira mentioned he had a motion to table the original.
You have
I
a
don't have a
proposal,
second.
procedural
I
problem
did
here.
second that.
Okay.
I'm not sure what the procedure is then.
Yeah, Ira's table motion have to be voted first.
So, all in favor of the table should vote first.
Yeah.
Okay,
Are you ready to table the motion?
so we're voting to table the existing motion?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, is there any more discussion on that?
No.
No.
Table the existing motion.
We're to
Meaning
table
the
the
first
existing
motion.
We are voting.
Okay. How many of us want to?
If I may-
Please
if
sit
I may
down.
interject.
This is a board meeting. We don't take cat calls from the audience. Thank you.
President Engdahl, if I may interject, and if I may just kindly ask the audience to keep it low, because what happens is I can hear everything on this side, and I can't hear
Okay.
what's happening here, even though it's on speaker, and so I'm having trouble hearing the discussion.
Let me
So-
remind those in the audience, this is a board meeting. We've had the discussion with the audience. We're through with that department right now, or that section. This is a board discussion from here on until we decide what we're going to do with this. Thank you very much, and you're free to stay, don't leave. But we're through with the motion from we're through with the discussions from the audience at this point, so please keep quiet. Thank you. No, I think we're going to end it right now. We will, I'm not trying to ignore anybody, I'm trying to get on with the business at hand.
You vote on the amendment.
Okay,
You vote on the amendment.
I'm sorry.
So we need,
You
if,
vote on the amendment.
Well,
no,
we're- okay, the
if we are
amendment-
going to table it, we don't need to do anything else, we just table it.
Okay,
If that passes.
we
If
take
that
a vote on
Yes.
that? We take a vote on tabling it? for-
We
Yes.
need to take a vote.
Okay, we'll take a vote then on. how
All in
many-
favor to table this motion?
The motion, the new motion is to table the existing motion to reinstall the 2,000
Yes.
until we get more information.
Until we discuss our
Additional
budget in
information
more
to
detail.
discuss in the board.
Yes.
Okay. To the audience, your plea has been heard. Believe me, it has been heard. And it will be in consideration. We are not going to make a motion on that today, but rather we're tabling it till we get a little more information.
Correct.
Okay, is that clear?
We haven't voted.
We want
Let's
to,
vote it
we
first.
want to vote for that. All in favor to
Right.
table the motion?
Well, the vote, the mo-
Just
the
just
vote-
just a second.
The vote we'll take at this point is to table the motion.
Right.
Correct? Okay. Those in favor of tabling this until we get further information, raise your right hand. Okay. That means that passes. That means that the decision has not been made yet to reinstall it, but it certainly is under consideration, and we will consider where else we might get the money to do that.
Sorry, for the record here, Jules and SK, were you opposed?
Yes.
Okay.
SK, were you opposed or
The
were you
motion,
abstaining?
the
I did
previous
not vote
motion has been
because
tabled
I don't know
temporarily.
when
abstained.
to discuss about this matter.
Pardon?
Are we going to schedule for
We're going to
meeting
schedule.
for this?
We will
particular
have to
item?
schedule some time. It may be in our regular board meeting. I don't know. I'll have to talk to our chairman
Before
about that.
final.
We'll
before
have
fi-
to, yes, we'll have to schedule a time.
Yeah, the vote will have to be made at some point. Okay? Now, I'm going to go around once again and try to get final comments. SK, do you have any final comment?
No.
Okay. Andy?
Yeah, this is not the end. The fact that we're not making a definitive resolution today doesn't mean that this money stays in the budget. This is a variant, number 3. I guess we have one more, and that's the ballgame, number 4, the last one. And we need to look at this and If it doesn't belong in that fourth version, it won't be in there. So that's, I can tell people we're going to get a fair look at it, and it won't be in there. If it doesn't pass muster, it won't be in the final version. That's the only assurances. There's just not enough to do it today, that's all. But don't take this as a no, that it's not going to be in the budget. What I'm saying is, change can still happen, and the final budget will take care of it, okay? All right.
You know what we did? We went on every...
I'm sorry.
One moment.
Are you
I'm
gonna-
sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Sir, this is
You're out
board
of order.
meeting. I
I'm
would ask you to
sorry,
respect
please
the
sit down.
Thank you.
Okay.
None of you even live there, so we all told
Please sit.
All right,
Your
let's maintain
your
order,
request
please.
has been heard. That's all we can do for now. No, please sit down.
You don't know yet?
Please sit down. Your request has been heard. It is in consideration. No decision has been made or will be reached today. Okay, Moon, you have any more comments?
Yeah. When you look at this number, the HOA gonna raise up to $800 some dollars. And then plus garden villa, you're gonna pay about $850. Okay, we're gonna price a lot of people out. A lot of people are at the level. So they may have to think.
Let's please maintain order.
I don't want to hear any more arguments. Thank you.
Okay, so what we heard of you, and then we heard your power over garden villa. Okay, we are not gonna ignore you, but we have to find some other way. Matter of fact, I'm proposing some cut in some of the budget. So if we have succeeded, we're gonna put this back on, but we're gonna look at as a whole budget. We just cannot say, ask somebody else to pay $2 more to just garden villa, cleaning. That is not fair.
Well, that's
So
part of
we
the
gotta
shared-
look at it.
Moon, that's part of
as a
the
whole.
shared, that's part of the shared cost concept.
We
So
will.
let's go on. Jules, you have any more comment?
Yes, I have another comment. It gets back to the point that I made before about being able to actually make an informed decision of line items.
Okay.
Which is why I'm prepared, for the most part, to defer to people that know a little bit more. When it comes to Garden Villa, Sherry made a very convincing argument, and she knows and they know a lot more about what's required in those buildings than I do. So I'm prepared to defer to her greater knowledge. And that explains why I vote the way I do. Thank you.
Any closing comment, Ira?
I'll just reiterate a little bit what Moon said. In order to unilaterally increase the $2.71 a month and keep the budget increase the same, we need to find other places to make cuts or more efficiencies. And that's what this tabling is all about. It's not a rejection, it's a matter of we need to be able to keep our ceiling that we've established as far as increase the same and not go up 10 or 11, 12% more on the increase. We need to be able to find other places to reduce it. And that's what we need some time and to do that. Unless you want, we can carte blanche say, okay, let's go up $50 a month and we can cover everything. Well, that's exactly what we're saying. No, it's not. It's not. There's a lot of requests. There's a lot of requests, not just from Garden Villas, but from everybody else to increase the budget so they can have more services.
We're just wanting to keep
I understand that. I understand that.
it. It's okay, go on. You said-
So that's all I want to say is we'd like to limit the increase to what we've already decided, and so we need to find other places to find the money for this.
Please, no more from the audience. Thank you. Kush, do you have any final comment?
Yes, thank you. I echo what Ira and Moon and everybody says, and we will work very diligently to make sure that we control the increase and also provide the maximum services to all our residents. And I hear your wants and needs and definitely would like to accommodate all of them. So please be patient and we will try our best to do that. And I am one of them who don't want an increase in my HOA dues too. So we'll work on it. Thank you.
Okay, Steve, any more comment?
No further comments. Thank you.
Okay. Siobhan? No. Jose?
No, thank you.
Any comment? Okay, I'll make one final comment. I'll just reiterate what you said, Kush. We pay dues too. We pay that association fee as individuals. As a board member, it's our duty to try to make everybody happy as we can. We may put this back in, put in the weekly cleaning. That vote is still open. It has not been made. We're waiting for some more information. We may end up having to increase the budget by $2 or maybe $1 and give something else somewhere else. May be able to whittle the whole thing away. This budget is not cast in stone yet today. So we still have that open. We've heard your pleas. We understand them. There were a lot of them, a lot of good, sensible arguments made, and I understand. So please bear with us. We're trying to balance we're trying to keep a lot of balls in the air at once, okay? And keep a lot of people happy. We have 9,000 units. We've probably got, 6,000 units. We probably have 9,000 residents here, trying to keep everybody happy. So I think there's no other to be said at this point. We'll adjourn this meeting as of now.
Thank you.
It's good to see you.
Overshot our 30 minutes of discussion, but that's all right. Everybody got a chance to